Here is the truth most people never want to face. Your life is not limited by your potential. Your life is limited by the version of yourself you refuse to outgrow. You say you want to change. You say you want a new story. But deep inside, you are still loyal to your old patterns, your old fears, your old identity. And until you confront that truth, nothing in your world will shift. But here is the part most people forget. Transformation does not begin when life gets easier. Transformation begins when you look at your own reflection and finally admit that the person you have been is not the person you were meant to remain. Every breakthrough starts with a breaking point. Every new identity begins with an uncomfortable truth. And every powerful comeback begins with a moment where you whisper to yourself, something has to change. Today, I want to show you what that change looks like. Real people, real battles, real evolution. People who lost everything, people who were counted out, people who walked through pain that would have destroyed most hearts, and still found a way to rise. J K Rowling, The Rock, Tyler Perry, Steve Harvey, Bethany Hamilton. 5 lives, 5 transformations, 5 reminders that you are capable of becoming someone completely new. If you let their stories in, something inside you will shift. Because once you understand how transformation works in the human spirit, you will never again doubt the power inside your own story. Before the world knew her name, J K Rowling was living a life that felt like it was falling apart. She was a young mother in Edinburgh, jobless, recently divorced, and fighting a darkness so heavy that she later admitted she thought she had ruined her life completely. She had no savings. She had no support. Some days she could not even afford to power the heater. Her only escape was the story forming in her mind. The story of a boy with untamed hair and a scar. A boy who felt out of place, who did not know he was powerful. But she did not write this story because she felt confident. She wrote it because she felt broken. The pages were not a dream of success, they were a lifeline. There was a moment where she stood outside a government office after being denied extra support. The wind was sharp, and she held her baby tighter. She looked up at the sky and, is this really my life now? That moment could have ended her story, but instead, something shifted. She decided that the world might take everything from her, but it would not take her imagination. So she began writing in cafes while her daughter slept beside her. She wrote with fear sitting on one shoulder and hope on the other. She faced rejection after rejection. 12 publishers turned her down. Some said the book was too long. Some said the story would never sell. One even said, children will not read something like this. But she kept going. Every no became a spark. Every rejection became proof that she was getting closer. Then one small publishing house took a chance, and the world changed. The boy she wrote in her darkest moments became a symbol of courage for millions. The story she created when she had nothing became one of the most successful series in history. But the magic was not in the wand or the spells or the castle. The real magic was in the transformation of the author herself. She did not rise because life became easier. She rose because pain pushed her to purpose. In life journey, pain can either destroy you or redefine you. Rowling chose to let it redefine her. Before he became one of the most charismatic stars on the planet, Dwayne Johnson was a young man watching every dream crumble into dust. He had devoted his entire life to football. It was his identity, his escape from a difficult childhood, his hope for a better future. But life can be cruel with timing. A devastating injury ended his chances at the professional level. Years of work were gone in a single moment. The calls stopped coming. Opportunities disappeared. And just like that, the dream he held on to since childhood evaporated. He was 23 with nowhere to go and no idea who he was without the game. He remembers standing at a bus stop in Canada with $7 in his pocket. $7. That number stayed burned into his memory. He later said it was the moment he felt both ashamed and awakened. There was a night when he came home after another rejected tryout and sat on the edge of his bed staring at the wall. He felt embarrassed, angry, lost, but most of all, he felt cornered. And that is when something powerful happened. He snapped out of the identity he had clung to for years and said, "I am done waiting for someone to choose me. I will choose myself." That sentence became the start of a new life. He threw himself into wrestling training. It was not glamorous. It was not easy. People mocked him. Agents told him he did not have the look. Promoters told him he would never make it. At his first WWE introduction, the crowd booed him out of the arena. But he kept showing up. He kept reinventing. He kept shaping a new identity with every match. Eventually, the world saw what he had been shaping all along. A man with unstoppable presence. A man with both humor and grit. A man who turned failure into fuel. Dwayne Johnson did not rise because life handed him a path. He rose because he created one from nothing. Reinvention begins at rock bottom. When the old dream dies, you give yourself permission to build a new one. Before the world knew his name, Tyler Perry was a man carrying wounds most people never heal from. He survived childhood abuse, emotional trauma, and years of feeling invisible. As he grew older, he discovered something that gave him a voice: writing. Pages became his therapy. Characters became his escape. But dreams do not grow easily in hard soil. He saved every dollar he could from working small jobs to finance his first stage play. He believed it would change his life. He believed people would come. He believed the world was ready. Opening night arrived, and almost nobody showed up. Most people would quit right there. Most people would take that silence as a final verdict. But Tyler Perry did something different. He tried again. He worked harder, saved more, rewrote scenes, booked another theater. And again, the seats stayed empty. 6 times he tried. 6 times he failed. He slept in his car because he had no place else to go. He ate cheap meals. He showered wherever he could. He kept writing to stay alive mentally. He kept dreaming to stay alive spiritually. There was one night sitting inside that car during a freezing rainstorm when he almost gave up. He cried into his hands and whispered, "God, I cannot take this anymore." He was exhausted, broken, defeated, but he was also stubborn. He decided to try one more time. That 7th attempt changed everything. Word spread. People came. The play sold out. Audiences cried and laughed and saw themselves in the story. Tyler Perry went from invisible to unforgettable. His work exploded. His characters became cultural icons. He created a studio empire on land once owned by the Confederacy. But the lesson hidden inside his rise is the one people overlook. Tyler Perry was not successful because he never failed. He was successful because he never stopped trying. Persistence breaks the cycle. The dream does not belong to the most talented. It belongs to the one who refuses to quit. Long before Steve Harvey became an icon of comedy and television, he was a man running on hope, exhaustion, and a broken-down car that doubled as his home. He had a dream to make people laugh, but life kept hitting him from every angle. His marriage collapsed, his money was gone, and he found himself living inside his 1976 Ford Tempo for 3 long years. Some nights were freezing. Some nights he went to sleep hungry. Some nights he parked at gas stations just to stay safe. He traveled from city to city chasing 5-minute comedy slots that barely paid enough to buy a meal. But there was something inside him that refused to die. He knew he had a gift. He knew he was meant for something more. When he performed, even for small crowds in smoky clubs, he felt alive. He felt aligned. And even though life was falling apart, his soul was waking up. Then came the moment that changed everything. He had just finished a show in Florida when he received a voicemail from the Apollo Theater in New York. They said they needed him to perform, but there was a problem. He was still in Florida with only $37 to his name. A one-way flight cost a lot more than that. He stood at that payphone, heart pounding, wondering if he should decline. He felt fear rising, logic telling him no, poverty telling him no, his circumstances telling him no, but faith said go. He found a cheap ticket that left in a few hours. Steve spent almost every dollar he had left just to get on that flight. He was terrified. He was broke. But he went. On that stage in New York, everything changed. He delivered a performance that shook the room. The crowd roared. The producers were stunned. Doors opened. Opportunities poured in. But the real transformation was not the applause. The real transformation was the moment he chose faith over fear. Steve Harvey did not climb out of poverty because he waited for a miracle. He climbed out because he acted on faith even when the road made no sense. The transformation principle here is that faith becomes power only when you are bold enough to move your feet. Bethany Hamilton was only 13 years old when she was already one of the most promising young surfers in Hawaii. Surfing was not just a sport to her, it was her identity, her joy, and her heartbeat. She lived for the ocean. She breathed for the waves. But on October 31st, 2003, everything changed in an instant. Bethany was lying on her surfboard waiting for the next wave when a shark attacked her with unbelievable force. In a single moment of terror, she lost her entire left arm. The ocean that once felt like home suddenly became the place that nearly took her life. The future she imagined felt shattered. The pain was unbearable. The fear was overwhelming. Doctors said she was lucky to be alive, but no one expected what came next. Most people assumed she would never surf again. Most people believed her career was finished before it even started. But Bethany had something inside her that trauma could not destroy. She made a decision, a wild decision, a brave decision, a decision that seemed impossible. She said, "I will surf again." The world doubted her. Doctors doubted her. Even some loved ones doubted her. But Bethany did not doubt herself. She returned to the ocean just 4 weeks after the attack. Her first attempts were brutal. She fell again and again. Her balance was off. Her strength was altered. Her body felt unfamiliar. But she refused to quit. One morning, she paddled out alone. The ocean was quiet. The sky was soft pink. She waited. A wave rose behind her, and this time, she stood. She rode it all the way to shore, tears streaming down her face. The world watched in awe as Bethany Hamilton not only returned to competitive surfing, but became a champion. Her resilience turned her into a global symbol of courage. She inspired millions. Trauma can take something from you, but it cannot take your spirit unless you hand it over. Bethany chose strength. She chose purpose. She chose to rise. 5 people, 5 stories, 5 lives that prove transformation is not reserved for the lucky. It is reserved for the brave. J K Rowling turned pain into purpose. The Rock rebuilt his identity from rock bottom. Tyler Perry broke the cycle through relentless persistence. Steve Harvey used faith to outrun fear. Bethany Hamilton transformed trauma into unstoppable strength. Their stories are not meant to entertain you. They are meant to remind you of who you can become. Because the only difference between you and them is the moment you decide that your future matters more than your past. Transformation is not magic. It is a choice. Make it count.